Right. Thank you very much for attending today's lecture. This is a compensation for yesterday's lecture. Before we start talking, I would like to thank for the professional work you are doing regarding the translation. I have went through a couple of pages, and you are doing a good job. I hope you can proceed on this manner up until the end of this semester, because we need to officially publish this piece of work after checking checking it through a professional translator on the website, and mainly we can provide this document to the Ministry of Investment as a contribution to as a contribution from from our department, and your name will be written on it. So please try to do the best in order to make it very professional. Um, as I told you, like we need to double check it, but doesn't mean like you just do it randomly, right? So I'm asking you to please honestly to work perfectly, translating it at the best of your capability. But anyway, it will go through a couple of stages of editing and proofing in order to make sure it is fit for publication. Rand and Mireille, I think they are not busy or not paying any attention to what I'm talking about. Mireille, you fine? Rand,
Sorry, Doctor, my supervisor was talking to me. Sorry.
okay. Well, I hope you heard what I have talked about this project. Let me. Okay. Today we'll be talking about a very important element regarding land division. But before that, also there's another important information that I will upload all the terminologies to this act, so you can just rely on it when you do your translation. Let me just. Where can I find it? Maybe I can just. Here. So part of the way how we can control urban density is through land division. And this is the main purpose of article. If you could help me, I think Jihan is responsible to do this translation. This part. And I hope you can stick Sadia to remind her of attending this lecture. So, as I told you before, there is a minimum area in order to divide a land into smaller pieces. And this determines the capacity, the urban capacity of a specific area. So if you can see here in Article 21, and it's written بالعربية مشروع التقسيم, which is land divisions. Okay, so land divisions, as simple as we can describe it, is to break a large piece of land into smaller plots, we can say it. Why? For many reasons. It could be like there's multi-ownership on this piece of land, and each owner would like to take his own piece to invest it, or to sell it, or to rent it, or to even to build on it. So sometimes you have, for example, a land, 10 dirhams, and according to the ownership certificate, there is, for example, there is 10 owners. So neither one of the owners can go and just find whatever appropriate piece or location in this land and just build his house. They need to determine, unless the other 9 owners agreed. But this is very tedious and very time-consuming process. So there is many reasons for land divisions. Sometimes also we do land divisions for investment. For example, it could be the same owner, but he would like to invest part of this land and keep the other, the remaining land for himself, for the future. He could, for example, divide it, so part of it to be rented out, part of it to be to sell it. So many reasons. However, we can't just say, I have the ultimate freedom as an owner, as a private owner, to divide the land to the as much as units as I want, or plots as I want. So there is two main conditions that determine the minimum plot area. And it's all related to the land uses. As you remember, we have in the land uses, we determine the residential zone. And please, Jihan, Usadia, just change the translation from residence to residential. Okay, residential A. Okay. So we have the residential zone, a category, and it's subdivided. And here we have the area, and this means the minimum area that you should provide it in order for the local council to agree. Okay, there is an F-16 planes is just passing by. That's because of the loud noise. Okay. Can you hear me now better? Or there?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Sorry for this. It's really loud over here. Anyway, so coming back to this regulation. So regarding, for example, residential, if you have a plot or a land, that's its regulation is residential A, and you need to subdivide it. Let's assume that it is $10. You can divide it into 10 pieces, okay? Because if you provided 1,000 meter at minimum, all right? However, there is another important condition to this. You need to provide the length on the road, an attached elevation of the property at least 25 meters. So both conditions should work hand in hand. So let's assume that I have this plot, which is, I don't know if I can go to paint, maybe this could help me. All right. So we have this land, right, which is $10. You can see my screen, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. So we have this land, $10. So that's mean 10,000 meters square. And I would like to divide it. So the first condition, yes, I can divide it into 10 pieces, and it is residential A. Okay. So that's mean I can divide it into 10 pieces. However, and this is the main road. Okay. The second condition, in order to do so, you need to provide at least 25 meter elevation. Okay, that's mean, for example, let's assume this land is 1,000 meter. Okay, meters squared. Okay, it's not enough. You need to also provide this attached elevation of the land to be 25 meter in length. 25 meter. I hope you understand me with this very primitive technique. Okay? So what about this piece of land then? How can I invest it? In this case, the surveyor or Massah, he proposed. So you need, for example, to provide a road in your land, okay? So in order to provide another 25 meters in length to get this land as to has its own ownership certificate, okay? The same thing could happen over here. And you need another road. And then this happens. So primitively, you can see there is only 4 pieces, or no, 6 pieces left instead of 10. Well, because there is the area of the land, the road itself. It should be taken from that. So it doesn't mean if you have a $10, you can't have it just a 10 pieces, because you need to provide the public road. And this road become for the public. So the owner, after dividing this land, can't come and say, well, this is the road that's been taken from my land, so I have the ultimate right to close it. No, it become a public entity, right? So this is in residential A, and the same thing applies for the other remaining. So the same system. So residential B is, now you can see the minimum area is 750, and it have a less restriction. You can see it's 20 meters rather than 25. Residential C is even less. Residential D is even lower. Three, until you get into the lowest one. Sorry, who are residential, popular residential, where it is very urban dense, and this is maybe the cheapest residential or urban property you can find in Amman. And you can see that it's small pieces now. It becomes 150 meter, the minimum area to be required, and 10 meter only length on the road. So imagine how this could change the urban population from residential A to popular residential. Okay, the same piece of land, imagine like this, the same area, the same road, and it is $10. Now you have the minimum amount is 150. So you will have something like this, roughly speaking. Because 150, this is 1,000, it's almost like 10% of the land, which is something like this. So imagine there is a family is living over here, and a family is living on the whole plot. So you can imagine the density. And also, you need to provide a network road. Well, please forgive my inaccuracy of the sketching, but this is the available technique provided. Anyway, so this is, I think you understand what I'm talking about. So this is a land plot. This is number 1. This is number 2. This is number 3, 4. You can see this is the whole area here is reserved for one single family. Let's assume they have just one single floor, just ground floor. And here is, so this, for example, in this plot, 10 families, or not, maybe 6 families will live in the same area in the popular residential. So it's 6 times roughly population density in comparison to popular residential. Is it clear, Sadia and Mireille?
Doctor, you were lagging at the end. I didn't hear.
Yes, it's like
Sorry?
You were lagging at the end.
But
After you made the sketches of the road and said that excuse me for my inaccuracy, that's when you started lagging.
so what, when did you stop hearing me? From this point?
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, what I was talking about is the same land area. If you can just take it and put it in another land use, the popular residential, I would like to explain how this law also control urban density. So the same plot here, because they have a minimum is 1,000 meter, okay, residential area, you can see we have just 6 pieces in the same area. We took the same land and give it another uh, land use like popular residential with the minimum 150 meter in comparison, regard if you can just refer to the law, which is over here, you can see that we have the whole area here is around 6 pieces. Here in the same unit, the 1,000, we will have 6 pieces or 6 plots. So what I'm talking about that because of this law, the population density is 6 times more in the population in popular residential in comparison to residential A. And this sketch is a primitive sketch in order to explain this. I just I hope you understand my point. تمام؟
Yes.
Good, Jihan Rand is clear.
But
Yeah.
doctor, what about the roads? Like, do
Yeah, the
they?
roads it's deducted from the land, so this is why I'm talking. So it's for example, if it's 10,000 meters square, you can divide it into 10 pieces because you need to provide to sketch the surveyor. You need to sketch out a proposal, and because you need to provide 2 requirements. The first is the minimum area, and the second is a minimum length on the road, an attached road. So this is what I was talking about. That the area of the land, which is I am hatching it right now, it should be deducted from the land. It is your responsibility as an owner to lose this area and provide it for the public, because now this road become for the public uses. Okay, so it is your responsibility to deduct the roads from your own property in order to provide uh, a separated ownership certificate for each piece or each plot. You can see over here the same piece of land, and these are the roads. Why? Because each piece of land need to have at least 10 meters attached elevation to a road. And the roads should start from 6 meters width. Depends on the area, it depends on the number of land plots that it serves. The more that the land serves a land plots, you need to have a wider road. Okay, if it serves less than 3 pieces, okay, you can have it for 6 meters. If you serve it for more than 4 or 5 meters, as I remember, you need to provide at minimum 12 meter in width. Okay, and it should be in coherence with the surrounding context. So that's why the surveyor اللي هو المساح will provide a sketch for that, and it mostly could get some amendments according to the local council requirements. They may approve it, they may ask for amendments. It depends. So sometimes you may not have 10 pieces. Maybe you have 6 pieces, but each land you will have, for example, 1,289, for example, and this piece is 1,150. Depend. So it is kind of dividing it in order to meet the minimum requirements. All right, it's clear now,
Yes.
Sadia. Is it clear? Good. So that's Article 21, and it critical in determining land density. Um, Article 22 is a continuation to Article 21, and it's kind of explaining the framework or the procedure for land division. So basically, the very first rule that the local council or the municipality in the municipality law, they are the one who are responsible to give the primitive approval on the land division. And you cannot get any land division without the local council approval. Second of all, you need to provide as an owner for the let's assume that we have this case in front of us اللي هو 10 دولمز. You need to provide the documents اللي هي for administrational purposes اللي هو first of all a certification of ownership. You need to provide the sketch from the land and survey department, and you need to provide a topography for the whole land, and it should be stamped by officially registered surveyor. Fourth requirement, which is here, you need to provide the proposal, the proposed sketch, okay, both physical and on a CD, in order so the same AutoCAD file, okay, you need to print it out. So because when they are meeting in local council, they can't open the AutoCAD. So you need to provide a physical copy, and along with a digital copy that it is uploaded on a CD. And the surveyor knows what all the laws and regulation for these divisions, and know what's the minimum requirement for the width. And also the fifth one, you need to provide, if the land has a topography, you need to provide a longitudinal section of the roads, both in width and longitudinal sectional view, and you need to provide the slope and how it is connected to the existing roads. So all these requirements are very important and necessary for the land division. In Article C, sub-article here, sometimes it gives the law the permission for the local council to exempt landowner from the minimum requirement, but up to 10%. For example, for some reasons, let's assume that there is multi-ownership and they need to subdivide it, and each person need to have his own piece of land. They can't, for example, let's assume that this land, they have a inheritance from their father, and they are, for example, 7 sons and daughters, and each one has just one portion, and you need to take this his ownership. We can't just have 6 and one go with nothing, or 2 to be in the same plot. So if it is possible, in order to, instead of having 1,000 meters, to have it, for example, 950 up to 900 minimum, they can do this. And also it applies for the 25 meter. We can reduce it up to 10% in order, but this is for specific conditions. Like you need to provide a solid argument in order to get the approval. That, for example, this is a land inherited from a father, and it's now there is many kids, many girls and boys in it, and they need to have their own stake, right? So we need to provide a solid argument for the local council to agree, but they have the right to to exempt the owner from 10% from the minimum requirement. Is it clear?
Yes.
No. In article H يكون there is that's about the width of road that it's required to be 14 meters in width unless you can do it for 12 meter if it is not more than 150 meters and has no dead end, or what we call the cul-de-sac, right? So you can have it for 12 meters in cases that is that the road is not more than 150 meter. And also you can have it even less than 12 meter if there is for 6 meters if it leads for just one single land or one single plot. For example, in our case, if for example this is a land by itself and we need to divide it into two pieces, okay? So this one, I can provide a 6-meter road here in order to get for this land. However, this land could be served by another road from another side. But let's assume that this is like, for example, 2 dwellings, and we need to divide it into two pieces. So in case of this, the one in the depth over here, we can provide a 6-meter road, okay, to get into this land. However, there is no need to have it up until the very end over here. We can just end it up over here. Okay, so we can just pose another case that this is another 2 dwellings. Here is the main road, and this is 2 dwellings residential area, and we need to divide it into two pieces. I can simply do this thing, and that's what most surveyors do. So we have this land, number 1, and this is number 2. It's served by 24 meters or 25 meters here, and it is 1,000, for example. And this is the road, and this is, for example, another 1,000. Now you will ask me, what about the area of the road? Let's assume that the land is like 2,100 meters, and the 100-meter square is being lost for the 6-meter width road. Okay. In this case, if it's just served one single piece, you can have it 6 meters, because it's not realistic to give them 14 meters, almost half of the land, in order to get a road. So it depends on so the width of the road, it depends on the length of it. It depends on the number of units it serves, and it depends on the yeah, that's mainly the length and the number of units is being served. Okay, sometimes it's required in cases on the rural residential and agricultural residential and green residential and the private residential that the minimum width is 12 meters. Why? Because in these categories, actually, we have a large, spacious land, because the law, the minimum land pieces to be divided, you should provide at least in the agricultural residential 10,000 meters. That means in our case, this piece of land, you can't divide it anymore. So the whole piece of land here, you can just have one single house, one single family. And that's what's it's called the green belt. That's the more you travel outside the sense to the boundary, the air density getting lower and lower. This you can see, you can just go and have a trip today from Amman city center and go directly to Dabuk, which is the northern western outskirt zone, and you can feel the urban density, how it is going lower and lower and lower until you reach that area. Okay, so you can in this land, as I told you, in this act, you can see that the less residential density is in the agriculture residential, and then it comes the rural one. It's 4,000 meters. So that's mean in our case, you can divide this piece into two pieces: 4,500 or 500, 5,000, 5,000. If you can provide a minimum attached elevation to the road, 40 meters. Okay. However, like there is regular commercial within popular residential is 100. Yeah. So that's mean البقالات الصغيرة في المناطق الشعبية. And I think it is now clear for you the translation project you are doing. It's good for you in order to study it, and you can just that's why I have chosen one English speaker and one Arabic speaker in order to help in the translation of numeric numbers as well as the textual one. But it is also your responsibility as an English speaker to revise and to improve the English language as well. It doesn't mean that you can just sit down and wait for the text to be ready for you. Okay. These are the main. I'm not going into very detailed one because as an architect, you will go through it some way, but it is the responsibility for the surveyor to do this. However, you can intervene to improve this. Unfortunately, the urban context, the urban design in Amman, it's been designed not by architects, it's been designed by the surveyor, المساحين. That's why we can just open Google or not Google Maps اللي هو دائرة الأراضي. Do you remember the website اللي you can see the irregular urban context that in the map, the urban design context, the urban form of our cities. Let me just go. They keep changing this website. Where is it? So this is, for example, if you can just take, you can see that okay, for example, let's say this area is a new area that's been divided. You can see over here. In the past, I believe, since they have a sequence number, so 840, 836, 46, 56, 66, 76, 86, 96, 70, 71, 73, 75. Where is 76? It's been 76, 77, 78, 74. So you can see that this was, if I can draw it for you, roughly speaking, I believe in this property like this. It was a one land, right? As a one single land, and when then therefore they came and divided, and since it is we can assume it is a residential, we can just click on it in order to get what type of regulation it is. Okay. think we were here, so yes, this is the land. We can click on it. I think it is residential area because the areas are 750. I guess it is residential B. Residential B over here, 750. Yeah, you can see. So this is residential B. We can confirm this if we can just go and see the minimum elevation on the road. You can recognize that this is a road. It's not a rocket science. You can say just length. Here we go. It's 26 meters. So they adhere to the minimum length, 20. They provided 26, and the area is 750. So now it is residential B, and you can see now they provided a roads for that. So the roads, according to the law, should be minimum 14 meters, or here it's 12 meters, because it is. I think it's. Let me see if it's less than 150. If it's less than 150 meters. Yeah, here we go. You can see it is less than 150. It's 110. So you are eligible to get 12 meters. But here, you can see the road over here. It is 14 meters, I guess. Or even it's more, 20 meters. See? Because why? It serves many pieces, okay? So that is an example, a recent example about the land subdivision, and I'm almost certain that this is residential B according to. However, this area is a newly regulated area, and it is between Abdul Corridor and مش عارف ايش اسمها هاي المنطقة اللي عند دير غبار. So this مجرة النوابلسة يعني it's a new area that it will witness an urban density in the coming 5 years. So that's why you can see there's a lot of construction works in this area because it's newly regulated. You can see over here, this is an example, that's a land like 278. It is not divided, it's still not divided yet. And it should follow the same, okay, rules if we would like to have it into smaller pieces, okay? Here, another example at 150. It's a very easy example. As simple as this, there is a road should go through over here. So the surveyor, if you could please turn off your mic if you don't have any question or something, because it's disturbing. So there is a road to be connected from this part to this part, and then you need to provide another road, maybe somewhere over here or in the middle of it. If you would like to divide to have lands on the left and on the right, okay. So that could be a possible proposal. However, so there is this task is important, as I told you, to determine the urban density. You can see over here how this division makes a lot of residential units. If we can go to Dabuk city, town, somewhere over here, like where is it? You can see the density, how it is. Which is this one. Yes, you can see over here. This is the green belt, the outskirt of the city. You can see the urban density, how it's getting lower and lower, particularly in this pieces of land. Here, that's the end of Amman. You can see this yellow line, that's the end of Amman. That's the green belt. You can see this property اللي هي مساحتها almost 6,000 meter. It has only one single house. You can see over here the same thing. It is 2 dorms and it's this house. You can see over here. You can see this large areas with like a lot of greenery over there. You can see this, and that's the green belt of Amman. You can see over here as well. You can see over here, still like large pieces with lower area. If you can just go a little bit, you can see how now it is residential A, private residential A. You can see the density over here. If you can just go over here, this is the green belt. That's all the lands at the very end of the city should contain a lot of greenery in order to preserve the city from pollution, from sandstorms, from whatever. Right? I think this is enough for today. I'm dedicating this lecture for the land division. Tomorrow we'll be talking about another section. Okay? At the same time, original time, اللي هو 10, unless there's any circumstances that obliged me to change the time. Right? Any question or inquiries?
Doctor, we have a midterm next week. Do we know when the midterm is?
Actually, regarding the midterm, once I feel that there is a bulk material that we have covered, I will determine we can just arrange it together. Yani. So I'm not expecting it to be the coming week. Most probably at the end, not even the week after. You can see today is the 2nd of August. So we have one lecture over here, and tomorrow there is a lecture, and then we have 2 lectures. Roughly speaking, I think we may have it on the 17th of August. Okay.
Okay.
Lecture. All right. So that's on the 17th or the 15th. And it depends if we cover the good material, we will go for the 15th. If not, we will go for the 17th.
Okay.
But I believe between these 2 days. Okay.
اوكي بس دكتور عندي سؤال هلا احنا كيف ندرس المادة؟ يعني كيف
افهموها وما تحفظوا ارقام. Do not memorize any numbers. You need to understand what I'm talking. Lectures اللي أنا re-listen to the recordings, mostly the one I'm talking about, because most of the question comes from my explanation. I'm not asking you to memorize the law itself. I'm not asking you because it's between in your hands. It's stupid to ask you to memorize it. All right, I'm not asking, but I'm. For example, you will. For example, I will. One of the questions that they may come for. Tell me about all the regulation. Explain the regulation for land divisions. So you need to talk about there is a minimum area. But if you, for example, provide me that residential area, the minimum area is 800 meters, I will not just say, oh, this is very wrong, and I will deduct mark. No, you need to tell me that there is a minimum area to be considered. There is also a minimum frontal elevation on the roads. You need to provide the road width determined by the number of plots. All these things that I'm talking about, that you understand the context. But I'm not asking you to determine the articles one by one or to memorize them. But you need to provide me the general overview, okay, for land division, the general overview about urban density, the general overview how to enact a new law in Jordan, how to amend it. So, for example, you need to focus on what is the difference between the regular commercial and the central commercial. what's the function that it's being permitted in the regular commercial. For example, the way that you need to answer that in a central commercial, you are permitted to do 1 to 3 types of business. In the local commercial, you are permitted for specific functions that is related to the daily life of humans, like a pharmacy or a grocery shop or a bakery, blah, blah, blah. So it is about your understanding of it. I'm not asking you to determine articles. I'm not asking you to memorize numbers. But at least you can just put them in the back of your mind. يعني إنه والله الفrontal setback of residential A should be higher than frontal setback on popular residential. For example, if you put me like the frontal setback in residential A in your explanation is 5 meters, and in popular residential you put it the same thing, I may see that you are not fully understand the differences between the types, the typologies of residentials. That's the whole. So it's more about explanation. It's more about sketching out your answer. The sketch is important to provide me. For example, the building height. You need to provide me a sectional view of a building. Okay. So all these stuff are important and necessary. Good. All right. So if you do not have any questions, I would conclude this lecture and hope to see you tomorrow 10 a.m.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
You are free to leave. يعطيكم العافية.
يعطيك العافية دكتور.